Hi, and welcome to the 5 Minute Business Boost, where you get to choose your 5 minute investment. I'm your host, Sam Hicks, and I'll be discussing topics under the headings of business development, marketing, photography, and much more. So buckle up, buttercups, and here we go. So today I'm joined by Rohan Webb. Now, a couple of things about Ro. He has spent his career in sales, marketing, and business management while having a side hobby of dreaming up side hustles, more side businesses, and getting them off the ground. He's recently decided to turn his hobby into a full-time gig focused on business consulting, digital transformation, workshops, and coaching. Now, one wild fact about Ro, and we've got to be careful with this one, he is a self-proclaimed massive nerd on space and astrophysics. And if we ask you about that, Ro, apparently you will just talk non-stop. So welcome. And does that really happen? Do you just go off on a tangent about space?
I'll stand there and I'll talk with my hands very enthusiastically until somebody asks me to please stop. So it's a danger, and everyone should be warned, I think.
I love it. Well, welcome today. So we're looking at sort of getting some insights about things that you might have learned, because you've had a bit of a variety over your career. And I'm assuming that you have worked in quite a few different sectors. So can you talk to me a little bit about how your business journey has begun, or how your career, I suppose, inspired you to start your own business now?
Yeah, it's when we first started talking about coming onto the show, I had a really good reflection about all of this, and really, I've always had that, I guess, that entrepreneurial spirit. Dad ran a few different businesses, and so he was always in and out of different things. And one of my first memories of sort of business in general, I was primary school age. I reckon I was in grade 4. And I remember I sat down with my older brother. I'm like, right, I like mowing the lawns at home. I could mow everyone's lawns in the street and they could pay me $10 a pop and I'm going to be rich. So we sat down and we wrote it all out, and it's like, I'm going to make a couple of $100 a week on this. This is going to be great. And then Dad turned around and asked me where the fuel for the mower was coming from, and I just didn't have a good answer for him. So, and just ruin my lawn mowing empire straight away.
Oh my God! It sort of dashed your hopes. So
it dashed my hopes.
Factor that in? Did you give up on that idea?
No, the fuel was just always in the shed, so it just there wasn't a problem with that. And then sort of that went through teenage years as well, and always come back to this. I always sit and scheme and plan ideas, but never really executing anything. And it's I had this habit of just like going deep on an issue, going, that could work, and then just sort of not doing anything with it. And sort of like in high school, getting caught up in fundraising and schemes and starting to get a real kick out of that execution of it. Working for the SRC and stuff like that. And then sort of moving into my adult career, always being around sort of sales and marketing and business management in some form or other. Yep. So working for a bit in construction, working, having a side hustle as a photographer, and then sort of spinning up different ideas at the same time. And mostly it's just for fun, and sometimes as a side hustle. So it's just sort of snowballed and compounded as time's gone on. I've always had a steady job because I always felt I needed that security, but always sort of dreaming and fiddling on the side with everything, and it's just sort of come from there.
Wow! So you're going to make the big leap, or you are now making the big leap. Yeah. So, what do you think? What is, I suppose, fueling this, Ro? Like,
I mean, it's a bit of a confluence of different situations. So, have been working obviously with a company, and they're going through a big restructure at the moment. So, unfortunately, what I was doing, the job no longer exists. So,
right.
I've got the opportunity now to sort of pause and take a breath and look where I am in life and go, well, I've got all these skills, and something I love doing is teaching people and showing people things and
Yeah.
talking about that sort of stuff. It's like, well, there's value in that.
Yeah.
And having a bit of that self-confidence as well. I'm now at the point where it's like, yeah, I can do this. And I think people will actually take me seriously for once.
So over this time leading up to this point, and I suppose reflecting on that experience, what will you think some of your key challenges might be moving forward, going in your own business? And have you sort of got, I suppose, some solutions mapped out?
Yeah. I mean, all of the major challenges, I think are going to be internal, and I think that internal to myself. So just the self-doubt and the anxiety and the ability to stick with it, even if it's, just a rubbish week and nothing's coming in, and just having that ability to that resilience, I guess, to keep pushing through the good times and bad. I think in terms of the solution behind that, I've found just having a really good network, people who are in the same position or maybe just a little bit ahead of me with a similar sort of thing, where I can go pick up the phone and go, oh, this week's been terrible. Can I talk to you for a second? Or can I have a glass of wine and sit down and just really sort of go over it? And what I find, having that network and being able to reach out to people around me in my area is just really, really powerful and really important, because you can't do it by yourself. It's something that you might be in business by yourself, but you're not doing it by yourself.
Yeah, and I think sort of something that was taught through us with COVID was we can sort of operate in a silo, but only for a certain amount of time. We've actually got to draw on our community and draw on our networks, and just even touching base. I had a consultant ring me the other day, and, just through that 10-minute conversation, the two of us identified a couple of collaborations and a couple of ideas and a couple of networking contacts to swap. So I think you're really right around, making sure that you do keep in touch with peers and contacts and connections to keep that momentum going.
I think it's really important as well to put some time aside and actively do that. So, if you're lucky enough to have a really good, business chamber of commerce or something in your local area, or maybe it's on Facebook and you find a group of people doing the same thing you're doing, just put yourself out there and make a couple of friends. There's actually a really good service. It's called, I'm not sure if you heard of it, Sam. It's called Lunch Club, and it's basically you sign up for it, and then I think you pick a day a week, and what they do is that they pair you with other professionals and you have a 15, 20, 30-minute chat over your lunch break.
Oh, wow.
So, so it sends you an email at the start of every week. It's like, yep, you're on this week. Confirm if you're happy to meet, and they just randomly pair you. So it's like a little bit like chat roulette, except like less creepy. And it's just with other professionals. So, and you pick your preferences about who you want to meet and chat to. And it's a really good way to just build your network and also get those contacts. So it's something I was referred to by a startup who was going through the same sort of thing, and she recommended this to me, and I've done it a few times, and I found it really interesting and a really good way just to sort of get you out of your comfort zone a little bit.
And I think it's about meeting those different people from different backgrounds. I find that totally interesting. One of my previous guests, Megan Buntine, does it really well with her network right around Australia and overseas. And, a couple of the workshops or lunchtime breaks that I went to initially, they had about 30, 40 people. But the last one I went to, she had like well over 100 people from all over the place. And I could have just sat there and been a passive listener and just listened to all the experience and the brainstorming that went on. It was just amazing. And I got out of that session and I thought, how good was that? I didn't even have to leave my house or the office. But, inadvertently, I met so many amazing people in a lunchtime.
Yeah.
Very inspiring. So yeah, I reckon that's a great idea, Ro. Sounds like the way to go. So on reflection, what do you think, or how are you going to know, I suppose, your successes and your milestones? And how, are you starting to plan, Ro, about, I want to get to this milestone? Are you sort of setting those KPIs internally or on a piece of paper yet? What's going to drive you and how will you know?
Yeah. I think this is probably the most, to me, it's probably the most important part of the planning. And whenever I go into this, I call it I go into my cave whenever I start obsessing about a business idea. It's like, okay, so firstly, why am I doing this business, or what am I doing it for? I've identified a gap in the market, or a cool product or whatever. I'm sitting down and going, cool. So what do I want to do it for? In this case, starting this consultancy type thing, it was actually very personal. It was very personal driven. It wasn't because I found this massive market niche and I want to crack it open and exploit it and be a multi-billionaire. It was more like, okay, so I'm in a particular stage of my life where flexibility is really important, and the ability to work from wherever is also really, really important to me at the moment. So I was able to do this reflection, sit down and go, right, so I need that flexibility. I need to be able to work remotely, and I need to bring money in to pay the mortgage and put food on the table. So it's like, cool, okay, so how much money do I need to bring in? So I set that money. I'm like, cool, if I can make that money, I know, that's a full-time wage and I'd be happy with it. And so I guess for me, illustrating the reasoning, or the why does the business exist? And in this case, the business exists so I can, I can have that flexibility within my own life, and as well as deliver, really useful services to my local community.
Yeah. So if that happens, that's a success. And the milestones, have you put a timeline on yourself, or are you just going to go with the flow, or what do you think?
It really is, and again, whenever I set targets, if you use the whole SMART framework, specific, actionable, and achievable, and it's a timeline. So I think within 12 months, if within 12 months, I've seen consistent growth and I'm heading towards my end goal, I'll be satisfied. I don't expect to reach the target in 12 months, but if I can see there's good progress towards it, I'll be happy. I'm being very vague about it because I don't know, and it's just, this is the whole process of sort of working through, and also I don't want to set a really strict target on myself and not achieve it, because that'll just completely demotivate me, and what's the point of setting it? So I'm being a little bit loose in it, but also hold myself to account that I'm writing this down and go, yep, I need to see some decent progress, and checking in with myself to make sure that's real and achievable.
And small businesses ebb and flow, and we're sitting here talking about this in April, but your life might change in May if you pick up a contract, or you happen to meet somebody that says, look, we're looking for this person to run some workshops. Is this you? And then away you go, off you go. There's always these variables in running small businesses. And I know, in my time, every 6 months is totally different sometimes. And you think, what the hell? And you make these little sort of plans and you think, yep, that's where I want to be in 6 months or 12 months. And it totally changes. And you've got to, I suppose, be flexible.
You do. And one of my I guess quotes that I roll around in my head whenever I'm talking about this stuff, and it's the old, the Sun Tzu Art of War. No battle plan survives contact with the enemy. So you can put all the plans and processes and goals. Yeah, and it's true. You can put everything in place that you like. But the second your boots hit the ground and things start shifting and moving, it's like, well, it's a rough idea, but you've got to be flexible enough to identify that these things are going to change.
Yeah, exactly right. So thinking back, what is the most important lesson you've learned or observed or seen or been a part of it that you might actually apply to your new business, Ro? What's stuck out for you?
I'm a chronic overthinker. Just it's absolutely analysis paralysis. You know, you'll sit
Whoa.
there and you go, oh, what if this doesn't work? And the fear of it all, it's like, wow, you know, and you've sort of just got to go do stuff. And this is something I learned a little while ago when I was sort of running a little side hustle called Northeast Cellar Doors during COVID. I was selling out mixed packs of local Northeast beer and wine, or beer and spirits. And I sat with somebody. I'm like, oh, I've got all these plans and all this stuff and blah blah blah. And he's just told me, he's like, you've just got to go sell shit. You just got to go do it. And I actually really took that on board. And I found that now it's like your planning can only get you so far. Sometimes you just got to go sell some shit. And it really is. You just got to jump in and figure it out, build the plane a little bit while you're flying and hope for the best.
Yeah. And I think that's the exciting thing about being in business. You know, it's better to be self-employed than unemployed.
Yeah,
is
100%.
a mantra that I've had sort of floating around in my head forever. And I think you're right. Sometimes you've just got to put the big boy or big girl pants on and just go for it and get out there and have a go.
And it is a really vulnerable place for some people to be in. And I totally identify that. Like, it is a vulnerable place to put yourself out there, whether you're, you know, selling widgets or coming up with an idea or selling yourself as a consultant, you know. It's very vulnerable and you're going to get rejected. And something I've noticed particularly in regional Victoria is that the whole failure piece, talking about failure, understanding it, you know, learning from it, is really is not embraced as it is in other places, because we're all small communities and we all know each other and we all know each other's partners and kids and all that sort of stuff. But being comfortable with failure and making sure you fail well, being that you learn from the mistakes and you apply the learnings as quick as you possible, you know, fail fast and fail good, is such an important part of the process. And I think it's something that in regional Victoria, we don't do it very well, and we should do it better and talk about it more.
And is that because of that small town syndrome, Ro? You sort of mooted towards that, you know, whereas in the city, you'd sort of be just one of a million, but up here in the regional areas of Northeast, you know, you might be one within a small community of 1,000.
Yeah, and everyone knows everyone's business. You know, like it or lump it, it's just the way it is, and it's hard not to. And there is that. It becomes a very real personal thing. You know, you'll be at the shops and maybe you'll see your clients, or you'll see, you know, maybe you'll see the people that you had a failure with, or whatever the case is, you know. So I guess the stakes become higher. And I think it is something that prevents a lot of people from putting themselves out there. But I think having that conversation about failure and why it's so important is just, it's just absolutely, it's more valuable than anything.
That's really, I think, a really valuable insight for people who are listening to, regardless whether or not you live in a small community or a big community, you just have to keep going, and you do have to learn from failures. And look, you know, every business owner has a major frig up at some stage or another, and you do learn from it. You say to yourself, God, I'm never doing that again. That didn't work well. But you need to move on from it, or, you know, change your processes or do something totally different. So moving on from that, I suppose if you was to stand outside of your business, because you are going to now be your own little aspiring entrepreneur and business owner, what advice would you give yourself, Ro? That's a tricky one.
What advice would I give myself?
I know. What would you give yourself, Ro? What would you say to yourself now that you're embarking on? this new career?
That's a fantastic question. I love that one. I reckon I would give myself the advice of you've got to go and build your network a bit more. You've got to attend some events, put yourself out there, have some coffees with people, lean on the network, and just go and do that piece. Because it's something. Look, it's something I'm not good at. If I'm totally honest, is actively networking, actively expanding that network. So yeah, I think the advice I give myself is put a day a week aside, or 2 hours a week aside, and go like, this is the time to actively work on your network, and you don't procrastinate on it. Just fricking do it.
Yeah, just get on with it.
Just get on with it. Just go sell some stuff.
One of the things that I keep telling myself, because it is hard to get out there and to network with people, is that I decided years and years ago, look, Sam, you don't have an ego. Who cares what other people think about you? Just get out there. And, that just helps me, because otherwise you do get a little bit of imposter syndrome sort of mixed up with, oh, my God, do I really want to stand up in front of a whole heap of people and talk? They're going to be looking at me going, what is this loudmouth on about? But I think the advice to yourself, Ro, is bloody brilliant about expanding those networks, because I think those networks, they're the ones that are going to be talking about you when you're not in the room, and you want them to say, oh, I met Ro last week and this is what he's doing, because it's going to be referrals.
And honestly, particularly in this, I guess, this sort of consulting space, I feel that network effort will repay itself a million times more than, say, a marketing effort would if I was, put an ad on Facebook or spend the time making some collateral or whatever. The effort would be, returned in, so much more. So it really, not only networking, but it also is a bit of marketing in itself.
It is. And, in that first 12 months of a business, you don't have a lot of money for that.
No.
Because
but you've got money for coffee. You can sit down and have a coffee with someone.
That's exactly right. So you've sort of got to think about creative ways of marketing. And you're right, PR, that networking, that word of mouth. I mean, word of mouth marketing, as you know, Ro, you can't afford to pay for it. So,
no, and you can't buy it if you want to.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's such a good thing for people to be able to refer you on.
I just want to comment on something you said before about the imposter syndrome that you mentioned. And I wanted to bring it up because another little quote struck me as you said that. And I got this when I was very, very early in my career. I was put in a position where I was working for a very large building products company. And I was basically put in charge of a whole brand new product portfolio. It just sort of happened. It just sort of the sliding doors happened. And then I was this, 20, I would have been 23, 24, and I was in charge of this huge product portfolio rolling out to a national business. And I'd be standing up in front of these CEOs and business managers and very intimidating people, giving presentations on how the performance and what they need to do better, and this whole weird topsy-turvy way. And it really came down to, it's totally fake it till you make it. It's probably my favorite, I guess, business confidence quote, is that, again, sometimes you just got to go out and do it and pretend like you know what you're talking about, and pretend that you've got to push through that sort of thing. And that's, that's so important. It's so important to be able to do that as well.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think you have to stand out there and just, have a bit of confidence yourself and just go for it. Before we came into this podcast episode, you made a mention about community. And I suppose I just wanted to lead the conversation. Like, when I first moved up here, Ro, I wasn't really well known. People were like, who the hell's this woman that's moved in? And I got involved in community groups, and I've learned so much from the community groups I'm involved in. Is that what you were referring to as far as your connection to community, or were you talking about more from a big sense?
Community in general is sort of, it's starting to be seen as the new frontier for business. And let me explain what I mean when I say that. I watched actually, I was part of a really good talk the other day where, actually you were there too, Sam, where they were talking about the future of business. And, sort of last century, business was driven by labor and physical work. This century, business has been driven by more of a white collar thing, by brain, by people thinking. We're seeing this drive of AI and new technologies come through at a rapid pace. So the next, what is being said is that the next step is it's going to be driven by the heart, and the heart being community and the human, fuzzy, messy aspects of what it is to be human, and the driver, the core of that is community. So businesses harnessing their community, leveraging their community to create these heroes or these champions of different brands, and just sort of moving into that space. But community is community no matter where you look at it, whether it's in a business sense or whether it's in a local sense. It's about, what can we do together that we can't do apart, and leaning on everyone's learnings and just sort of moving into that community space, I think is going to be really, really important, not only for business, but people in general, as we sort of move into an interesting new era of new technologies. Because it's just, a community can do things like AI will never be able to do, the support of people and that stuff.
Yeah, that's right. Wow, that has been inspiring. I'm all warm and fuzzy now. I think you're right about community, because there are so many things that, humans can do that AI can't. But it's certainly an exciting time to be in business as far as AI. And I suppose, from a marketing point of view, we all go, oh, look, new shiny, and we sort of deviate off the track a bit. But being able to I suppose use AI tools better in a business. I think is quite exciting for small business owners, because we do wear many hats. And you're going to be doing that in your business, Ro. You're suddenly, you've got to be the accounts receivable, payable, you've got to be the marketer, you've got to be the workshop developer, you've got to do the planning, the whole gamut. And it does put a lot of time restrictions on people, because you want that healthy work-life balance. You want to be able to spend time with the kids, go on holidays, do the trips, do all of those things, and, watch the stars. Just saying that, Rose.
Don't start, Sam, don't start.
But you've got to have a nice balance. So, great discussion.
I use lots of AI tools in general, because, as I've alluded to, I am a huge nerd. But also, one tool that I consistently use is for time management, called Motion. And you've probably seen it up on your social media feeds and that sort of stuff. But in terms of organising, very popular, worth the money, I find. It takes out those dead pockets of your day, and it eliminates that, what have I got to do next? I know there was something, I can't remember. Let's look through my emails. I've got to respond to, and get off on your sidetrack. Very, very, very good way to keep you on track and on target.
Yeah. So is that your favourite AI tool at the moment?
It is. Yeah, it's my favourite at the moment. Obviously ChatGPT and your Mid-Journey image generators are all fun to play with. But in terms of in terms of productivity and really, I guess, useful tech, this is absolutely my favourite, is Motion.
Oh, well done. Well, that's great. So, listeners, check out Motion.
I'm not employed by them. This is not an advertisement.
So I've learned so much from you, Ro, today. So where can our listeners find you, learn more about you, connect with you? How can we find you, Ro?
The best place to find me is on LinkedIn at the moment, and it's just Rohan Webb. And it'll be the same picture that you're going to post up with the podcast, I think, Sam. And if you want to reach out to me, what's that?
Check out the guy in the suit.
Guy in the suit, yeah. I think that was the last time I wore a suit, Sam, to be honest. And if you want to reach out to me direct, just shoot me an email. It's Rohan at Woolshed without any vowels, so WWOLSHD.co, because we're the Woolshed company, Woolshed business company.
I love it. I love the new name. Thank you so much for thank you so much for coming along today. And
no worries,
I hope to see how your new direction goes and takes you, and best of luck with it.
Thank you very much. It was an absolute pleasure. Good to chat.
All right. Thanks, Ro.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to the 5-Minute Business Boost. For more information, follow me on social media, sign up for my newsletter, or check out my website to see how we can work together to reach your small business goals. And remember, anything is possible, especially in northeast of Victoria. Till next time, cheerio.